introduction, right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
All
And
right.
this is live on LinkedIn.
So good to see you guys.
We're live. Okay. I thought I was going to do a 60-second countdown, but I guess I did do it. So welcome. Bienvenidos. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great, Tuesday afternoon. Mi gente, let us know where you are celebrating Valentine's Day from. I'll let a couple people get on here before we get started. But I'm excited about today's panel and the conversation we're about to have. So, do any of you have big plans for Valentine's Day?
I don't.
I don't.
I'm gonna be like Rihanna and work. Can we just acknowledge how fabulous women are?
Yes.
Exhibit A on a Super Bowl Sunday, Rihanna.
Yeah.
Throwing that out there.
You know, even with Valentine's Day, I was thinking, I actually just split with my partner, but I was thinking, you know what? I'm not going to feel bad about it. I called some of my friends and I was like, you know what? Thank you for being the love of my life for the last 25 years of friendship. I really appreciate you and, want to let you know that. So I've just been reaching out to different friends and saying, Happy Valentine's Day. So, all right, we have Stacy in Durham, North Carolina. Stacy, shout out to Latinas in Tech. We just, Stacy just kicked off our chapter a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, I guess. New York City, there's Clayton, North Carolina, Washington State. So we have some people coming in from different areas. So glad to have you joining us today. Bienvenidos, mi gente. Let me know if you're just jumping on where you are celebrating El Día del Amor y Amistad from. I would love to hear from you. For those of you that might not know me, I'm Ruby Garcia. I'm a leadership consultant, mindset coach, and certified hypnotherapist. And I really help Latinas shift from self-sabotage to self-mastery, which is really means breaking free from some of the limiting beliefs, from some of the cultural narratives that we have, so that Latinas can show up as the most powerful and bravest versions of themselves. And I'm excited to have this conversation today. And there's a special reason why I brought these mujeres on. As some of you know, I have been working on a book for the past, I would say, about 4 or 5 months. To be quite honest, it's been a slower process than I anticipated, but I think the Camino that I walked last year prepared me because I was a really slow walker, but I still got to my destination and I realized that, everything happens on its appropriate time. So I'm okay. I'd rather put out a book that I feel has captured the essence of what I really want to share and describe versus trying to just meet a deadline. And thankfully I have that flexibility. So but part of the reason that I wanted to start hosting these conversations was because, the book is really about navigating the workspace as a first-gen Latina professional. And I was very, very fortunate to have some good leadership instruction. And that's how I met these mujeres here today. And that really helped to accelerate my career. I was already 15 years into my career when I went through this leadership development program. And so I thought to myself, if I had gotten these tools much sooner, how much faster would that have accelerated my career? But I know that everyone has access to a coach or, the investment to make into a, leadership program and things like that. And so I really wanted to write a book that was going to support other first-gen professionals, right? Make it easy and accessible. And as, I was writing it, I realized, I can't wait till August or September when this book comes out. I want to be able to put out information to help others navigating their journeys now. And especially because there's so many layoffs going on and we're seeing the market change so quickly, I feel like it's even more important to, give the access code, right? Give individuals insight into what might be helpful and supportive of them. So I will also be revealing the title of my book, which I'm really, really excited about, but you'll have to stay tuned for more. And I need your help because I have the title, but I need some help around the subtitle. So definitely send those to me as you think of them. But as I said, Latinas are underrepresented, overlooked, undervalued. And it's really time for us to be able to, all of the women here are kind of further in their journey, but you have a big heart to give back. And so I want to kind of open it up to them. I'm going to stop with my long introduction. We'll just move right into the conversation. This is interactive. So if you're joining us online, feel free to jump into, the comments. We can share comments. If you have questions, feel free to do that. But Sonia, if you want to kick us off, can you tell us, for everyone, if you could just give us a little introduction, who you are, what's your cultural background, and what's your profession or industry that you're in?
Yeah, Sonia Del Rio. I'm in Chicago. I am in the real estate industry, and I am Mexican, first generation Mexican. Short and sweet. Do you need more than that?
Whatever you want.
I could go on and on, but I'll stop right there. I can't wait
Okay.
to the combo.
Lisette, you want to go next?
Definitely. So I'm a first generation middle child of three girls. My parents are of Mexican descent, myself as well. Grew up in the north side of Chicago, attended Chicago public schools all the way through high school, graduated from DePaul University with a major in accounting, and I got my MBA from the University of Notre Dame. And my industry is really, well, not industry, but my career, because my career fits basically in any industry. My career is ethics and compliance program management, and I help companies drive behaviors, ethical behaviors for their workforce.
Awesome.
Super happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, Ruby.
Yeah, definitely. Letty.
Hi, everyone. Ruby, thank you for the invitation. My name is Letty Katz. I'm first generation college grad, and I'm an immigrant from Mexico. So actually, I started my career in Mexico with Deloitte. So I moved to the U.S. when I was 26 years old, and I worked with a public company for 16 years. I held different positions until I became the operations controller. Then I moved to another, the largest Latina-owned accounting firm here in Chicago, where I was a director in tax and accounting. And right now I work for a JGMA, which is an architecture firm. And also I have my own firm. So I love accounting. I love accounting, and I love helping small business owners grow. And also I love to contribute to the Latino community here in Chicago. So I'm very grateful to be here this morning.
Thank you, Letty. And last but not least, Wendy.
Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to be on this call with all of you. My name is Wendy, and I am based in Chicago. And before I tell you a little bit about myself, I want to just say that the women on this call were part of my empowerment journey, and they will forever have a very special place in my heart. I am not a naturally born Latina. I like to say I am an acculturated Latina. My father and my grandparents were immigrants from Eastern Europe. So, I understand the immigration piece, but I'm also married to a Mexican immigrant. We've been married for 36 years. We have 3 children who are bicultural, bilingual. And I like to say that I'm Mexican by injection. I've lived the culture for the last 30 plus years, and I'm excited to share my journey with all of you. I work for Bank of the West, which is now BMO. We just merged with BMO, so I'm super excited about the opportunities that's going to bring to our organization, and I'm excited to share my journey with you.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm also first gen, and I was pretty fortunate early in my career. My first job was working for GE Capital, and I had leadership kind of really took me under their wing. And I felt like I moved pretty well up the chain into other roles in other companies faster in my early career, but then I felt like I got stunted about middle of my career, and I couldn't figure out why. And I didn't realize that part of the piece was I just thought that hard work would be enough. And maybe some of you mujeres and some of you who are watching can relate. I thought hard work was going to be enough. And I realized that hard work isn't enough, right? That there's this whole other game being played. And I was not privy to the rules.
Right.
And that was very shocking for me, because I thought, well, shouldn't I just be rewarded and recognized for my hard work? And isn't that enough? And it turns out it wasn't. And that was probably one of the biggest, I guess, surprises, or the thing that I was least prepared for. And I didn't have anyone to go to. My mom has a 3rd grade education, worked cleaning houses or childcare or, in catering, things like that, always in other people's homes. And my dad worked on the railroad for 46 years. So there was really no one to ask about how to navigate things. What were some of the things that you were either surprised the most about in terms of, entering the workforce, or what were you the least prepared for, as you navigated kind of, corporate America? And really, it could be any industry. It doesn't have to be corporate America. I think it's very similar if you're a nonprofit or government.
I'll chime in here. I entered into the workforce in my early 20s. I was married. I had 2 little ones. I went into banking. And, I was pretty ambitious and very inquisitive, very friendly, very sociable. And what I learned the hard way is that sometimes clients or even senior leadership misinterpret your kindness for something else. And there are unwelcomed passes. There are also indirectas. I'm not sure if there's an exact word to translate that, right? But overall, there's a lot of underlying unwritten expectations in terms of working extra hours, expecting to get paid those extra hours, but then being accused of not being a team player when you refuse to work for free. Right. I think those lessons over the years I've learned to manage and better prepare myself for and stick up for myself. I think those are the most valuable lessons I learned coming into the professional arena and then navigating it.
Thanks, Sonia.
They assume you're flirting. Erica Hernandez says, yes, they assume you're flirting.
Oh,
Sometimes, yes.
Well, I think that goes into some stereotypes, right? And how we're perceived, right? Rather than being perceived for, the brilliance or, innovation or being solution oriented, right? We're sometimes stuffed into these stereotypes of, I don't know, I've heard things from like exotic to, spicy or feisty or, passionate, just
fiery.
Yeah. Yes.
I also feel when you're younger or in your early 20s, mid 20s, there's a level of, you're more easily influenced or impressionable than you are when you're in your late 30s or early 40s and so on. And so there's individuals that take advantage of that. Right. And if so again, all these women on this board, and we're missing Juana, I know she's in the audience, right? This was a board of, we all served as advisory council board members, and we grew as professional women. And it was my first time being at the table with other professional women versus at home. I had tias and, relatives that weren't in the professional arena, and none of them had the wisdom to share with me, prepare yourself for X, Y, or Z. And I had to learn that through a group of women, peers. And it was a great learning experience for me, and I've held on to it. And my daughter is not first generation, and neither are my nieces. And so when I observe my nieces and my daughters around in the family room, all of us folks in my generation, either educated or have advanced degrees or careers. And I think, wow, they're so lucky, right? They get to tap into our wisdom, and we get to share that wisdom. And in our culture, in my culture, we didn't grow up in that type of environment, but we get to shift that paradigm, or we get to shift that narrative. So
yeah, and that's such an important point. And Juana said she misses us, and we miss you too, Juana. We wish you were here. She couldn't make it because she's at a conference, but we're glad that you're tuning in. And Stacy said, that's why we're here. Let's share these secrets with our other heifers to be, right? And yes, that is exactly why we're here, is so that you don't have to feel like you're the only one that is walking this journey, and not feel like, you know, you have the access code. This is about sharing the knowledge so that we can all grow together. Lisette?
Yes, I wanted to share my story. I started out in public accounting. I was working for a Big Four, and I think my biggest struggle was getting to the management level. I always was wondering, why am I not getting promoted? Why am I not getting promoted? And I think one day I walked into the office. The partner told me to go into the office and pick up some paperwork or something that was in the desk. And in that desk, I happened to see the promotions for the next 2 years, and my name was not in that list. And I don't think I've ever shared this story actually, but I was so devastated because I knew that I had been working so hard for that promotion. And right there, you saw a list of people that were going to get promoted that year and that were going to get promoted next year, and my name was not on that list. And it was until that year, I was in my early 20s, where I realized I need to advocate for myself. I need to take on this task on my own. And thankfully, I was surrounded with really good mentors. I was surrounded with really good colleagues that were also like coaches to me. And they gave it to me straight. And they said, this is what the perception is of you in this office. And it was the biggest aha moment for me that I had ever encountered. It hurt me sometimes, like just by them telling me, because people perceived me in the way that I was not. But it was a great big eye opener for me. And it was another Latina that actually gave it, you know, she was the one that actually told me how it was in the office politics.
Yeah.
So for the last 3 years, I had gone into all of this without knowing the politics. Had I known the politics, I would have understood that I need to network with the influencers. Who are the influencers in your office? Who are your direct stakeholders? Are you meeting with them on a quarterly basis? I didn't know any of that. So, you know, that's the biggest aha for me.
Yeah, and that is so important. I'm putting it in the chat so everyone can catch that. Is like, who are the influences? Who
Yeah.
can make the decisions? Who do you need to have in your corner? And that is something that so often, you know, even I know for me, I always kind of backed off from being too engaged with leadership. And it was more out of a respect thing, right? Like, I didn't know better. I just kind of looked at them as authority, you know, any leaders as authority figures, and almost like elders, like just respect for them, that I waited for them to come to me rather than advocating for myself. And that was, you know, part of my journey was being able to speak up for myself and make requests and ask for what I want and or what I needed. But it you know, I don't, like I said, I was already 15 years into my career by the time I started learning those skills.
Right.
And so I think if you can learn to self-advocate for yourself earlier on, you're going to be in a much more better position, because that will help you throughout your entire career trajectory, and you'll get, you know, where you want to go faster. Letty, how about for you? And your experience is a little different. And I'd love for you to touch on more of the immigrant experience, because you were working at Deloitte in Mexico and then came here. And so I'm sure there was even a difference in, you know, how one shows up for work here versus Mexico. Can you speak to that a little more? Oh,
Hear you.
are you on mute?
Sorry, I'm back. So hearing you feel like so related, but in my experience, I worked 3 years at Deloitte, and I thought that it was preparing me to be in the corporate world. Well, when I moved here, the big shocking is that our culture in Mexico is that you don't advocate for yourself. You don't. I mean, you need to be. It is kind of unrespectful to be direct. So I learned then you need to wait. And here it's a different story. I mean, I didn't know that you have to advocate for yourself. I didn't know that you need to speak up, then you need to talk to management or the people with that have seniority in your organization, because it is perceived to be not it doesn't seem like it's perceived well in Mexico. So it is a different culture, and navigating, it took me years to really understand that and to be direct, because it was not, I was not, I didn't learn that from Mexico. So I think the big change is you need to learn for immigrants that I just moved here with professionals. I think the best advice I can see is learn the culture, meet with people who are here. Sometimes we as an immigrants try to stay with our own and don't want to really interact with others. I think my big advantage, mi consejo is please understand the culture and meet other Americans or Mexican Americans and help you navigate around the corporate um, world. Because for me, it was a big shock. And many other, we need the whole hour to tell you so many different um, factors that affect me. Then I wish I had known. I I knew as 16 years after I came here in my career, and I learned so much. And I said, I wish I have known these wonderful nonprofit organizations and support Latinos and professionals to grow. So I didn't know any of them. So it's wonderful that now we have more internet, social media, and also we have this, like today, we
Yeah,
can share about this wonderful organization that can support you.
Yeah, and I think what you're also speaking to is even if you, because even some of the barriers that you had coming from Mexico to working in the United States, but even for those of us that were born in the United States, a lot of those belief systems we just inherited from our parents and families, right? And I know that some of us talked about this before, and if you've read any of my posts or seen any of my you know heard me talk at all, I talk a lot about mindset, right? And some of the cultural scripts that we have that get passed down, like Juana had mentioned earlier, right? The seen, not heard, calladita te ves más bonita, right? Or, and some of times it's blatantly said outwardly, right? And we hear that from our families or in school or media, wherever. But then some of it is just passed down, not so much through it being directly said, but through how it was modeled for us too, right? And so that's a big thing, is just how we picked up what was modeled for us, and so we don't know any other way until someone shows us or tells us or lets us in on that.
Yeah.
Ruby, someone made a comment in the chat box about childhood triggers.
Oh yeah, I wanted to go back to that one actually.
I want to address that, right? I grew up in a very traditional Mexican home. My mother was very submissive. My father was the breadwinner. And so everything my father said and decided was the law of the land. And so I grew up just, taking orders or respecting male authority more than female authority, I should say, because then in my childhood, my mother was really focused on the house cleaning and she was a homemaker, so that was her priority. And so me making those observations, I pegged that female authority I kind of at work, and so I really didn't take it too serious, or I was easily triggered by taking orders from other women. And there's a level of emotional intelligence that you get to in your career where you realize, this is stemming from my childhood, right? How do I change this? How do I address this? And then you just make a conscious effort, right? As making sure that as you collaborate with other women, you hear them, you respect them, you don't use your childhood upbringing or triggers to.
I want to point out, and like I spent 16 years with this healthcare company, and there were no Latina women in position of authority, none.
Mm.
So for me, I didn't have any role model to follow. So it was very, I guess I think it's different now. I'm getting old, like 10, 15 years ago. But I think seeing other women in position of authority and really support others, it changed the way you behave
Correct.
and the way you can move around corporate. So very important that we connect with other women in our organizations.
Yeah, and
Like
it's
a
funny because I
supporter.
said to Wendy the other day when I asked her to come on, and Wendy, then we'll move to you. But I said to Wendy, I part of the reason why I really want you to come is, Wendy was at my graduation through this leadership program, and I remember her, very distinctly. I remember meeting her, and I told her, I said, I think you believed in me before I believed in myself. And I don't know what she saw or whatever, but I mean, all these women really have been, huge advocates. But I mean, Wendy, I remember that so distinctly from, that graduation day, which was like 10 years ago now. And it's so important that we find women that are going to empower us. And when we're not maybe, not there yet or not where we want to be, to find people that are going to call forth the best in us, right? That are going to shine a light on our positive strengths and kind of be a mirror for us, right? Because as I saw other women, like these mujeres that are here today, as I saw them like walking in their power and, doing their stuff, I was like, you know what, I can do it too. And that's why it's so important to have community. I'm such an advocate for community. Wendy, go ahead.
Yeah, Ruby, you blew me away. Yeah, I remember distinctly we were at Benedictine University. I think that's where the graduation was, and you were like the keynote speaker, and I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, this woman is amazing. I want to be you when I grow up, and I'm like, I could be your mother, but you just had such an impact on me that I'm like, she is going to do amazing things in this world. Just the fire and the passion and the compassion. I mean, you're just such an amazing person, and I'm so glad to be part of your tribe. And I'm glad to be here today. But a lot of things that my colleagues have shared here today resonate with me so deeply. I'm one of 6 kids born to a woman with a 3rd grade education like your mom, Ruby, and my dad was a blue collar worker. So I really didn't have role models for my career journey or my academic journey. So I got married very young at 19, and I started having babies at 21. I had my daughter at 21 and my last child, who is one of 3, at 28. So when they were in high school, I had jobs on and off, and they were just jobs, as my kids were growing up. But once I hit my 40s, I just realized, now it's my time to do something. And I got involved with ASE through my job. And when I went through the women's leadership program, it opened my eyes to so much. And I became so empowered, and it was the catalyst to help me start my college degree at 45. I started college at 45 years old, with 3 kids and a full-time job. I got through it in 4 years. And because I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. I had a job at the time, but it was just a job. It wasn't a career. So once I got that degree, I was able to get a position in the group that I wanted. I work in supplier diversity, so I'm all about economic empowerment. And I've never looked back. I got my degree at 49 years old. I just turned 56 on Sunday, and I feel like the world is at my feet.
Oh, Wendy,
Yeah.
you're awesome.
It's never too late. I just want to say
it's never too late.
That is so true. And look at the impact that you've been making, Wendy. It really doesn't, we're each on our own journeys, right? I always say that we're each on our own journeys. And, sometimes I think we worry that we're late bloomers. Like I would look back and I would say, oh my gosh, like everything was so late. I feel like I'm late in the game. Like I didn't know this stuff, but you know what? My journey went exactly like my journey needed to be. And had I not gone through my journey, I was just telling someone this the other day, had I not gone through my journey, I probably wouldn't be writing this book that I am or having this conversation here, right? Part of what made me do this or want to do this was because that was part of my journey, but I don't want other people to take 15 years to get, the keys to the corporate kingdom, all, the access code for it. I want them to get it now so it doesn't take them so long. So they don't have to go through all the, BS and, there was a day when I even joke about how I would, back in the day, straighten my hair and wear the pearls and wear the cardigan and, try to look professional. And it's like, I don't do that anymore. You know, I purposely wear my big hoops. I purposely wear the bright lipstick, right? The bright colors, because I thought that that's what you needed to do in order to, you know, fit the mold. And I think times are changing. And I think part of our work is not necessarily assimilating, you know, because I think that's the tendency that we've had to do, is assimilate. And especially I've seen some comments about those that are working in male dominated industries. And we think that we have to, you know, assimilate into those, but knowing that it's our differences and our lived experiences and our perspectives that's what brings value. That's, you know, it's being different that brings value to these organizations. So we talked a little bit about some of the office politics. We've talked some about advocacy too, and I want to hit on this a little more because this is, I think, a very common barrier for Latinas. Is like, I think part of it's not knowing how to self-advocate. Like, I know I didn't even know what that meant when I first heard it, maybe 15 years. Like, what is that? What does it actually mean to self-advocate? I'd love to hear from you how you've self-advocated, and if there's been any tools or resources that have kind of helped you in that journey.
I can speak. Sorry.
Go ahead, Letty.
Coaching. I can tell you, and what it helped me when I was at the corporate company. Then I went through the Mujeres de ACE, having a coach. So it was so wonderful. It was a completely different approach of how to advocate for yourself and how to speak with your supervisor. I mean, it was the coach can really help you see how to communicate better and how to really empower you. So look, if you don't have one, please have one.
Hire me. I'm available.
Hire Ruby, please.
No, but really, you know, coaches are going to tell you the thing that other people won't tell you. You know, your friends, they're hype women. And if you have a good friend, they're going to tell you the truth too, you know, but they might not work with you is the thing. Right?
Yeah.
So having someone to point out those blind spots is going to be really, really helpful to you because they're there to support you in, you know, advancing your career, supporting you in your personal and professional development. And, you know, it might sting a little, you know, because sometimes I don't know about you all, but I'm pretty sensitive. So sometimes it hurts my feelings, but then I sit with it. And I sit with it and I try to think about like, okay, is there some truth here? Okay, what do I have to shift, right? How can I be better at this? What about for you all?
I'll say you need practice, right? Use opportunities. You have to practice. You can't, it isn't enough to hire a coach and to read books and to join leadership development courses, which are all great, but you really need to seize on the opportunities to practice self-advocacy. I'll give just a quick example. I joined a new developer or startup developer back in August, and this is the current role I'm in. I knew nothing at this point about the real estate development process. I know bits and pieces. I understand a little bit about, you know, the Department of Planning, the Department of Housing. And so because it's a startup, there's a lot of irons in the fire for him and for our CEO. And he's got about 2 good commitments or is committed to developing on 2 different projects. And I remember sitting with him and just being you know, overwhelmed with everything that development entails, right? And so I'm thinking, wow, this is a great opportunity for me. And so I said to him, when we master these 2 projects, when we execute on these 2 projects, can you please allow me to own the 3rd project in this particular neighborhood? And I pointed it out. I said, I would really love to own the development of this neighborhood. And he gave me a high five, right? And he knows I don't have prior experience in real estate development. I mean, I have a broker's license. I've done real estate for the last 22 years, but this is a new endeavor for me. And so I wasn't going to wait for him to think that I was capable of it, right? I know that I have a lot of learning to do, and that's okay. But I want the opportunity, and I asked for the chance. And he said yes. I mean, it's practice, right? And that's just one example. There's other opportunities for folks out there to ask for what you want. No one's going to ask on your behalf.
Yeah, we can't wait for when we're ready all the time, right? Because otherwise we're going to be waiting forever.
Right.
You know, perfection does not exist. And so
Do it scared.
Yeah,
Do
you
it
got to do
scared.
it scared. You got to be, you know, it's not about being fearless, but it's about exactly doing it scared, putting yourself out there, raising your hand, you know, asking for the opportunity. And I think to your very point, Sonia, it's, you can have all the, you know, read all the leadership books and personal development. I love it. Believe me, I'm a personal development junkie, right? But none of that, if you don't have application, none of it is going to make a difference, right? Knowledge without action will not change anything. It's knowledge combined with action that is going to make a difference.
Right.
And I'll add, you know, I'm not the best person at advocating for myself or blowing my own horn. I'd rather just be in the background, work hard, and, you know, pray for the best. But as I've learned and as I've evolved in my career, I realize the importance of having other people in your life that can really help you see how amazing you are and how much you bring to the table, and help remind you of that. So it's important to surround yourself with people that can help you.
And then I want to add to that too is, and I'm particularly right now, I am looking for a role. So I'm going through a lot of interviews and I'm applying for a lot of different jobs, right? And the question is, can I apply to this one? Do I have the experience? Am I qualified enough? Am I qualified enough, right? Well, this time around, I'm completely taking this I'm completely taking this differently. I am applying for all the things that I feel that I am qualified for, and I feel that I'm more qualified than a lot of people out there. Now, the reason I say that, and you'll learn through this, if you're young and you're starting your career, let me tell you that the more you work with people, you will start realizing that there may be times you may even have a boss that, because you study, you keep up the trends in terms of what you do, you may know a bit more than them in that respect, right? Perhaps they may know more in terms of leading people, but you may have more knowledge in terms of your own, your own strengths with what you do. And so a lot of people out there are getting hired for roles that they may not be very well experienced for, but they may have just done really well in that interview. So all of this combined has given me the oh my God, I can definitely do this role. I feel like I have the capability and I've led a lot of teams. Like, I am ready for these different roles. But it takes yourself to kind of be your own cheerleader to be able to do that for yourself. And it takes, honestly, it also takes a lot of really, good and bad bosses for you to realize these things as well. But at the end of the day, we live and learn, and we got to move on and move past that.
Yeah, well said. I think there was a couple good comments in here. Was Angelica said one thing that always stood out to her was, why not me, right? And believe me, if you're not asking for the opportunity, your counterparts are, right?
Yep. Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
While most women will not apply until they feel that they know all the ins and outs, and they feel overqualified, that's when they'll apply. So just quick story, the role I'm in now, they bid out for a chief financial officer. I have like no chief financial officer experience, but I saw the role come in and I was like, you know what? I don't care if I don't qualify. I'm submitting my resume. I submitted the resume because I know the statistics, right? Through these programs and through the women here, right? The men will apply if they don't feel, well, they don't care. Whereas women, they want all this training and education. So I was like, you know what? Nope, I'm not listening to this stat. I'm going to go ahead and defy it. Submitted the application or the resume. I get a call back, and the president was like, you know what? We got your resume. Yeah, you're probably not going to fit into this role we're looking for. However, we love your background on X, Y, and Z. Would you be willing to come in for an interview for another opportunity? And so they created the role that I'm in now. So my role is sales.
That's awesome,
right? So if I had allowed an insecurity to not apply, to keep me from applying, I wouldn't be in this role. And I got to tell you, man, the people I work with and work for, it's such a blessing. We're like a family. We pray together. We check. It's just a whole different vibe that I think if I would have let the fear sink in and not apply to this, I don't know where I would be today, right? So let that speak to whoever needs to hear that.
Yeah,
Love
I think
this.
one of the biggest mind shifts that can help people is having that growth mindset, right? It's not about like, you didn't know you you didn't check all the boxes off of that, but you knew you had the capacity to learn it. And so I think we need to get in that mindset of like, okay, maybe I don't check all the boxes. Maybe I'll have to, hire a coach. Maybe I'll have to take a financial course. Maybe I'll have to, look for a specific mentor. But I know that I'm capable of learning that. And I think that's one of the mindset shifts that can really help us is just knowing that, having that self-efficacy, what kind of Lisette was talking about. You've got to believe in yourself. And even if you're not there yet, that you can get there. I also wanted to point out, who is this? Lady's comment here about if you don't ask, the answer will be no, right? My niece, when she was about 8 years old, I remember she said she was asking for candy or something silly, but it always stuck out with me because she said to my sons and her siblings, she said, well, if you don't ask, you don't get. So make sure you ask, right?
Wow.
That is such a valuable lesson coming out of the mouth of an 8-year-old. So, definitely you have to ask. You gotta be able to advocate for yourself. So, so I have, there's some more comments coming through here. Yep. Studies have shown that women are more likely not to apply for a job if they don't meet all the requirements. Men are more likely to apply. I think I want to say it's like men will apply if they have like 30% of the requirements, where women feel like they have to have like 80% or above. So, and I do not believe in let me just say this right now. I don't believe in that. Have the confidence of a white man. No, that's like that faking bullshit. Like you just have to have confidence in yourself.
That's right.
And what you bring to the table. You can, Araceli says, if for a lot of roles, you can learn how to do things. So if it says experience with X preferred, go for it. You can learn. Congrats. Let's see. One thing I want to bring up though, that because I've known you all for a long time too, right, is you all seem very, very confident, confident, powerful women. And I feel like I've always known you to be this way, but do you feel like you've always been confident, or have you struggled with imposter syndrome? And how have you gotten to be the confident, powerful and brave and beautiful woman that you are today? Or was that just always the case?
Well, thank you for that compliment, but no, not at all. Especially for me, I was always very afraid to speak, and when we were in conferences, because I had a big accent. And then I remember people say, "Oh, who's the lady with the big accent?" And they were like, it always resonate on me and say, "I don't want to speak because that doesn't sound like I'm very intelligent when I speak in a foreign language." So it was until now, in many years, that then you can bring these different ideas because I'm from Mexico. The organizations can benefit from me for having a different background, and so having an accent is not a bad thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
But it takes time for you to really become confident speaking in another language. More when you learn that when you're an adult. So,
Just think of this. If you're speaking English with an accent, it means you speak at least another language. You're way ahead of everyone else.
yeah, thanks. But it takes time, and I think for other professionals that have an accent, I think it's I wish I had known. Then it's not a bad thing. It is actually you can bring more different ideas and different ways to work, and it's beneficial for the organization. So speak up, don't be afraid, and be confident even if you have an accent.
I'll speak for myself here, but I never addressed the fact that I had imposter syndrome. Like I never addressed it, and I know that now. I think what happened was that I just started to get more confident in my knowledge because I love learning and I always want to learn about what I'm doing. And I always want to make sure that I know what I'm talking about. And so with that, that's how my confidence grew through my knowledge. But I honestly feel like I did have imposter syndrome, especially when I was like, a young career person. I always felt like, do I really belong here? Because I don't see anybody else that looks like me. I was always shy, never spoke out for myself, etc. And it really did take me many, many years to get to this point. But can you imagine how it would have been for me if I would have, obviously done all of this way sooner? And that's why I do these types of conversations, because if there's somebody out there that needs to hear this, like, you can address that. It's not something that you want to have in your career, because at the end of the day, it does kind of make you go down that path much slower when you have so many resources to be able to learn from all of this.
Yeah. And for those of you that are listening, I would encourage you. I mean, you have a panel of 4 awesome mujeres here. Drop in your questions too. If you have questions and you want those answered, now's a great, time to ask those, or send a DM too. Sonia, what about you?
Yeah, I experience it all the time, especially when you're in a room of people who don't look like you and are subject matter experts on something else. It tends to be intimidating, but you have to question, where does this come from? Where does this imposter syndrome come from? Why am I feeling this way? You got to do some pep talks. You got to understand your worth, your value, what you bring to the table. You have subject matter expertise as well, and you should be able to leverage that. Feel comfortable, get comfortable if you're not already, and leveraging your subject matter expertise. Your life experience goes a long, long way as well, right? You come with wisdom, especially if you've been through, had some challenges, and just life in general. I think for me, this imposter syndrome, I've learned to manage it well enough through faith, pep talks, obviously reflection, yoga, meditation in any way, shape, or form. And look, everybody else has their own journey. That's their journey, and then you have your journey. You just have to embrace what God has given you, right? And just go with it. I try not to waste too much time on the insecurities or the guilt. I saw Susan Hampson in here, and I remember telling her one time, if you're feeling guilty about something, F it, right? It provides no value. The feeling of guilt and imposter syndrome provide absolutely no value in your career. So get rid of it. The sooner the better.
Yeah. And I love what you say about getting to the root. I think that is so important to explore where that is. And that even goes back to, I think, what Erica commented on earlier about some of our triggers, right? A lot of imposter syndrome, I think that it can be from different areas. It can be from the lack of representation. But I think a lot of it can also be from this not enoughness feeling, right? Like not smart enough, not thin enough, not whatever enough, right? You fill in the blank, this not enoughness. And that is probably most likely a story that was created probably in your childhood, really. And so looking at where does that come from, and that's, shameless plug, this is why I love hypnotherapy, because that's what it's about. It's about getting to the root, right, and pulling the root out, right? Because if you just pull the weed out, it's going to grow back, right? And that's why you see the self-sabotaging behaviors, or the way that you don't even apply for the opportunity, and all these other ways that we kind of sabotage ourselves. But if you can get to the root of it, and it doesn't have to be through hypnotherapy. I've done therapy to work through some of my stuff, right? And that has helped me, because I realized personal and professional, they overlap. This is not, they are not boxed, right? Your professional life doesn't live in one box, and your personal life doesn't live in another box, right? If you've got stuff going on, or unworked through traumas or whatever, like, that's going to have an impact in the way that you show up at work. So, I'm a huge advocate of doing that internal work to be able to pull out, those root causes, or those core issues, so that you really can, show up in the most powerful and bravest version of yourself.
Yeah, Ruby, I'm still a work in progress, even at my age. But the beauty of getting older is that you do learn to love yourself more with each passing year. I've spent my entire life trying to shrink myself because I'm a bigger woman, and I don't like to be in the limelight or center of attention. I'm happy in the background, but as I get older and I feel more empowered, and I start loving myself more, I do want to speak out and speak up and help other people come out of their shells and understand their worth is not the size you wear or a number on a scale. So
Yeah. I think part of it with age too is also that you just say F it.
oh
For me anyways,
yes,
I'm too old for this crap. Like,
Yeah, and
absolutely.
and like, you don't pay my bills, you don't pay my mortgage, you don't pay anything. Why should I worry about how pleasing any of this is to you?
this
Like,
is true. I'm telling you, after 40, I feel like all of a sudden there's a certain confidence or wisdom, because you've had some lived experience, you've been through some junk, you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
Yep.
And so and I think it's about prioritizing, right? Which is a lesson that we can all take away, right? Prioritizing what's really important, what's not. And you get to this point of, self-acceptance, and this is who I am. Not to say that hey, this is who I am, and I don't have any work to do, right? Because I, like Wendy, I mean, I coach, and I still am constantly a work in progress, right? And so, but also being like, I'm okay with where I'm at, even though I, have these areas in which I can grow at. I still am enough as I am, right? And so I think the more that you can come into that, that's also going to help build your confidence. I think part of confidence is also built through just taking action, having courage, and taking consistent action, and learning from those failures, because we learn more from our failures and from the adversity than we probably do from, things going easy for us, and learning from those experiences so that, we can help others, or we do it different the next time.
It is.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, it is so true. And also, I think we need to advocate for the new generation. I'm a mom, and I have a son, and I can tell you a little story. I had my CPA license from Mexico, and I was working here to get my CPA license, and it took me 5 years. And I was working full time, directing public accounting, and it was 16 hours working, and after 5 years, I said, I think I should not pursue this. And then my son was applying for colleges, and said, I just didn't want him to feel like I'm not fulfilling what I'm saying. So after I believed that I could do it, I did it in a year. So, and for me, it was a mind change. Say, like, it took me 5 years, and I was saying, I can. And finally, when I really say, like, I need to do that, and I can do this, something changed. Suddenly, I was passing the exams, and I think the motivation was, for me, was to really be an example for my son. But there are several motivations that we need to do for the new generation, and I think that we can lead by example.
Yeah, we can.
And this is something that is very important for me.
Yeah. And I'm going to transition into this question here, because I think that's a great point. Is Lady says, how do you calm your nerves when speaking in public or virtually? What advice maybe would you give her? I can tell you right now, just do it.
Just do it. Right.
I was nervous getting on before. I just told Sonia before we got, I'm like, man, I'm nervous. Like, because I don't consider public speaking my profession. And so I still get nervous. But the one thing I always do for me, because my top value is love. And when it comes to leadership, it shows up as heart-centered leadership. For me, one of the things that always helps me is to come from that place of love and to be authentic. The way that you see me here with these mujeres is the way that if you saw me on the street, I would act the same way towards you. Like, I am no different. And so I think that just doing it scared is part of it. And practice. Like, I do think practice, that you get better the more you do it. I will probably look back on some of these videos one day and be like, man, I sucked. I said too many ums, or, or rights, or whatever, a lot of filler words. But part of it is just practicing and gaining the, you could like review these. That's one of the things that I do, is review some of my recordings even, and look at, it's cringeworthy for me half the time, but I look at ways that I can do it better the next time. How about you, Mujeres? Do you have any advice for?
Yeah, I hate public speaking, honestly. It's much easier to do it on this platform because you're not seeing a whole audience. But I think, breathing techniques are really important. Just, make sure you're getting enough oxygen, taking pauses, try not to speak as fast because you're nervous. Sometimes we speak a little bit faster. But one of the things that I find that makes me more comfortable is if I speak from the heart versus trying to follow a script. If I try to follow a script, I am such a mess. But if I just speak from my heart and, say what's on my mind, it's so much easier and it comes off way better.
Yes, and I have to call this one out because it was so good. I just like Juana's advice here. A wise woman said F this and she lived happily ever after.
Right. Beautiful, Juana. Yep. Practice, practice, practice. Correct. I tend to just write down some talking points that I want to make sure I get across. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't review them. And again, just practice.
For what helps me is I'll look at ahead of time what the topics are or the questions, and I will literally type my answers up. But just the action of typing it up makes me think about it, and at least I now know what. I don't need to read them. I just already know because I've already thought about them.
Right.
Yeah. So I know we're coming at the end of the hour. We have one more question, but I wanted to share the title of my book. So as you all know, I've been working on my book, and been working on it for maybe the last 4 or 5 months, all about this conversation that we're having here. It's really basically the essence of the book is navigating professional workspaces as a first-gen Latina. The things it's the book that I wish I had as I entered my career as as a professional. And so I struggled a little bit with writing, which I love to write, but I didn't, for some reason, the idea of writing a book, it seems very daunting at times, even for someone who loves words and loves writing. And so what I started doing was writing it as a letter form to the women who have inspired me, to the mujeres that have inspired me, to people like Sonia, Lisette, Leti, Wendy, Juana, who's not on, Rebecca, who's not on. They're all part of the leadership program that I had gone through. And for those that don't know, it's Mujeres de Hace, was the program. And so when I felt myself getting writer's block or getting stuck, I would just think about different women that I've met. And I facilitate some of the leadership programs now. So I've met multiple women through there. And so I would just start it as a letter. And so the book title is called Querida Mujer. And it really is an ode to like all the mujeres in my life that have inspired me and given me so much strength and courage, and made me feel powerful when I did not feel powerful. And so I'm really excited about the book. I do need help with the subtitle, but this book, I decided to write it while I was walking the Camino de Santiago in northern Spain last summer, or actually right when I came home, not on the journey, but I was kind of thinking about like the legacy that I wanted to leave behind. And this is, kind of what I see as my part of my legacy and part of my gift in a way. And this is why I held this on Valentine's Day. In a way, it's my love letter. It's my love letter to other first gen Latinas that are navigating the same journey that I've navigated. So let me know what you think. I was a little unsure because, the querida was like, are people going to know how to spell it? Are they going to know how to find it? But I'm trusting people can figure it out when the book comes out later this summer, late August, early September. And I am looking for a subtitle. So if you have ideas for a subtitle, let me know, because that's something that I'm still working out. But Querida Mujer will be out this, like I said, by my goal is by National Latina Day. I don't know if you guys know that we have a National Latina Day, which I think is August 19th or 20th. And that's my goal, is to have it out by then and have a launch party for it. So I'm speaking it out here and hoping you'll
yes.
What
a perfect title.
Yeah,
I love
awesome.
it, Ruby. It's gorgeous.
And that's why I purposely pick these mujeres to join me today, because it really is, so much has been inspired by them and by others that I've met through the journey. So let's see, can you guys stay for 1 minute to answer a question? If you can't, it's okay. I just wanted to what is some advice for the millennials and Gen Z who work in work environments that silence or self-advocacy and having their voices minimized to angst?
You have to overcome that. You have to overcome that. That's yeah.
You may be in the wrong work environment, right? Like at the end of the day, not all companies may fit. Yeah, the truth. I've left companies because they're just honestly because of their values and turned out to be not my values.
I would recommend that you partner with the other Gen Zs and you form a coalition and an alliance and make your voices heard. I was at a real estate board meeting. There was only 2 women of color, all male. There was about 30 people. They solicited our advice or for suggestions. I made a suggestion. The other woman of color made a suggestion. The gentleman who was responding to some of the suggestions, he just brushed us off. We had some very good financial suggestions and he brushed us off. And I thought, is it because we're women of color? That was a brush off that I did not appreciate. So I went to the other woman. I said, you know what, your suggestion and my suggestion, they were excellent suggestions. I'm sorry that he brushed us off that way. And she said, girl, I'm used to it. I said, well, we shouldn't get used to it. I'm not going to get used to it. So I ended up organizing a fundraiser for her because she's running for office, and I'm calling it Black and Brown Girls for her name, right? And so it's just those little things, right? Like take action, right? Don't just sit there and take it by the sidelines. Take action and let them know your alliances. I'm not shutting up. I'm not going away quietly. Yep.
Drop the mic right there, I think, right?
That's right.
I mean, and that's how we started the conversation. You know, at the very beginning, I talked about how we're overlooked and undervalued and underrepresented. And part of it is that we don't speak up for ourselves, right? Or we don't take action. And I think Sonia gave some great advice there in terms of how to deal with that. And Lisette too. Sometimes it's not the right culture for you, and you have to, just bless and release it, let go and move on.
Your mental health is more important.
Yes, your mental health is more important. And sometimes there's an opportunity, it depends on how willing they are. And so maybe you can be the one to make change, right? It only takes one person. It really does. So I know we're at the top of our hour. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I'd love to hear your feedback. I plan on doing these once a month so that we can have conversations. If there's stuff that you want to hear about or topics that you're interested in, let me know. You can drop me a DM. All of these women are on LinkedIn. You can find them there, and I encourage you to follow them and connect with them. And Mujeres, I am just so grateful for you wherever you are. I hope that you're celebrating with a lot of love and friendship on this beautiful Valentine's Day. So everyone have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ruby.
Thank you, Ruby.